Hi, it's CajunDIYDiva, and today I have a fun little project. We are going to make a clock out of a charger. You know, a charger is what you put, like instead of a placemat, you put it under your plate when you're setting a nice table. And I have these pink chargers that I don't really know what they're made of. I think it's some kind of really hard plastic. I got these at a thrift store or garage sale or something a long time ago, and I've just been waiting for a project to use them for. And I always thought that I might make a clock with them. So what I'm going to do is I drew a little mark for, oh, you can see my reflection, where I need to drill a hole right here in the center. But I'm going to go ahead and, because my husband has a drill somewhere, and I don't know where he put it, and then he left. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this charger, and what I'm going to paint it as is a New Orleans water meter, which is kind of an iconic symbol in New Orleans. They have these really cool water meters when you walk around the city, and people used to steal them. So now they have them where they put a lock in them so that people can't steal them anymore. But people still do steal them somehow. But the image is copyrighted, so I'm going to change it just a little bit. But this is for me, so, you know, I can paint what I want, you know. So what you need anyway is you need a charger, or actually Michael sells these rounds, or Hobby Lobby, or probably AC Moore, you know, a lot of the craft stores, and maybe even Home Depot or Lowe's might sell these rounds. But this already has a hole drilled in it, but this one is too thick for I've had this clock kit forever also, and just never got around to using it. But this one you have to have only like a 1/4 inch thickness, so if I decide to use that one to make a clock, I'm going to have to get a different type of clock kit. But they sell the clock kits at the craft stores, you know, Hobby Lobby's, Michael's, whichever one is close to you, you can find them there. And this charger has kind of a shiny finish, so I could try sanding it, but I just decided what you can do is I'm just going to paint a coat of some chalk paint on it first, because chalk paint you can paint over, you know, varnished surfaces and stuff like that. So I figure that'll be easy. You also need a battery for your clock kit. I have paint brushes and my water cup, and I'm going to get out paints in a little bit once I decide. I think I'm going to use a slate blue and white background to do my water meter image. So, but I'm going to paint it to begin with in the white chalk paint. So let me get to it. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to start painting it. This coat doesn't matter because it's just a base coat. So it doesn't matter how it looks. Sometimes I paint the back for look's sake. Sometimes I don't, because I like to know what the original thing was. So usually when I keep things for myself and I'm not selling them, I will leave it in their original form. Like I often do paintings on old cabinet doors. You know, when people get new cabinets, or if you're around Louisiana, people's houses flood and their cabinets have to be thrown away, but the doors usually are okay. So I'll go, you know, junk piling and find, you know, some cabinet doors, and just keep a screwdriver in my car so I can just unscrew them and just keep the cabinets, or people give them to me when they're getting new kitchens or whatever, or sometimes the thrift stores have them. The Habitat Restores sometimes have them. So that's what I do. I go find them and, you know, do projects with them. So this, I just painted this. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll show you what I'll do. Okay, so I'm back. So I have my charger primed. I went ahead and painted both sides. Now, and I also drilled a hole in here, and you just want to take your clock kit and make sure that it fits somewhat snugly through that hole before you start painting or doing everything, because you don't want to have to go back and drill. It might mess up your painted surface. So I have two colors here. I have Payne's Gray and I have Titanium White. And what I'm going to do is the center, I want a little bit darker, and the rim I want a little bit lighter. So I'm going to start with the Payne's Gray. And when you first paint it on, it looks really dark, almost black. A lot of artists use this color instead of black, but when you mix white with it, it sort of turns into a grayish, almost a blue, which is a pretty cool color. So it's one of my favorites. I love Payne's Gray. And I want to come all the way up on this inside rim and fill that in. And this does not have to be perfect at all. If you have trouble with the paint being too thick, I'm just going to add a little bit of white as I go. I'm just kind of blending to lighten the color up a little bit. And I'm just going to keep swirling around until I like how it looks. And make sure I cover up. I don't have any blank spots showing through. So I want it a little bit darker on the inside, but you know, not too white. So okay, so now I'm going to do the rim. I'm just going to take I'm not cleaning my brush, I'm just going to take a big bunch of white. And I'm going to go around the rim, and as I push my brush down, some of the gray that's already on the brush is just blending in. I'll pick up, if I run out of gray on my brush, I just need to add a little more Payne's Gray. But you can see how it's coming out very light around the rim. And that's what I want. And so I just want to give this a good coat and cover all the blank spots that are showing through, so I don't see any more of that pink anymore. And you know, you can spend as much time as you want on this. I'm going to go pretty fast because it's video, but you know, you could take your time and really spend a little more time. And I really like having this circular brush strokes in the center, so I just want to emphasize those a little bit more. And I want to make one little swoop around that inside rim. Okay, so that's done. So I'm going to put this aside to dry, but I have one painted already. So now what I want to do is I want to do my lettering. So a New Orleans water meter, it usually says New Orleans right here, and it says crescent box up here, and it'll say in little tiny letters sewage and water board, but I'm not going to put all that. So I'm just going to do, water meter first, in all caps. Well, what's good about chalk is you can wipe it right off. I want it to be even with this. So here I'm going to write and I got to try not to push too hard because it's going to actually scrape the paint off. And then I'm going to write New Orleans down here and try to do it in a little bit smaller letters. Now I could just paint this with my brush, but I like to see New Orleans, Louisiana. I like to kind of get an idea of how much space each will take. And now I'm going to do the little design that's on these, which is a crescent moon, and then there's little stars here and there. So underneath the water meter words, there's four stars. And then there are just some other ones that are in random places. And then there's also like streaks of light coming out. And these, I'm not doing these perfectly because I don't want it to look exactly like the original. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint in white over the letters that I just drew. Now you can use a finer brush than what I'm using. I probably should switch to a finer brush, but you know what? I'm already doing it. It'll be fine. And this is a painting. It doesn't need to be perfect. You know, what I always tell people in my classes, I always say, what do I say about it? If you wanted it to be perfect, and they all say in unison, take a picture. Because this is art, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm filling in my little stars. I get a little ADD and like, oh, where do I go with my brush? Where do I go next? Now I'll do my letters, some more of my lettering. people ask me if you could use paint pens for this, and I don't like to, but that's fine if you want to. Paint pens make the lettering come out a little too perfect, and I don't really like it that way. But certainly, if it makes it easier for you, then use paint pens. That's fine. I think that it doesn't look very painted when you use paint pens. That's why I don't like them. I don't really like the result that you get. But if you have a hard time with lettering, then maybe you should use them. But like I said, I like to do it in chalk first, and that makes it easier. Okay, so now I just have my little streaks of light, and these do not need to be perfect either. And I think I'll add one more right here. And maybe one more right there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is go back to my Payne's Gray and try to give each one, I should probably wait to do this. I got a little too much water on my brush. I'll come back to that letter. But I want to give a little shadow on each letter. You should probably wait until it's dry so that it comes out better. So see, I'm just adding a little shadow. I'm also going to give the moon a little dimension. Go back in the white. That's a little too much in there. So I'm going to continue this. I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and finish with my painting on this. Okay, I'm back. So what I did was I did all of my outlining on, and you may have to, after you do the outlining, you may have to go back with the lighter color and kind of fix the letters, and that's what I did. Then I used this gloss to do a coat of gloss over it. It doesn't have to be this. It could be like some polyacrylic or some kind of clear varnish or something. Just, it kind of makes the flat color pop on the on your design. It just really gives it a pop. So, and drilled my hole before I painted it. I think I already said that. So, so I got this clock kit from the craft store. They have different kinds. You want to make sure that you get the one that fits the thickness of whatever you're doing. So this is a 1/4 inch, but if you get one of those rounds that's thicker, you might need a 3/4 inch. And so this is, let me move this. This is how your clock kit comes. This one didn't have a second hand. It only has a minute and an hour hand. It took me a while to figure out what I was supposed to do, because I was like, where are the extra parts? But they're screwed on to the center piece. So you have this little tiny nut, this little bit bigger nut, like a hexagon nut. You have to unscrew that. This flat washer and this rubber washer. So this rubber washer has some little grooves in it. I put that face down, and this goes underneath. And also, some kits have this little part. This is like so you can hang it on the wall. So some have it, some don't. So what I want to do is just push this up through the middle, and so it's tight against the design. And I want to make sure that my picture hanger thing right there is pointing at 12 o'clock so that it'll be hang straight up and down. You can readjust it after you put it on. So the first thing we're going to do is take this little washer and put that on, and then take this little hexagon nut and screw that on. You want to screw it on really tight, and it's pretty easy. And I'm not going to tighten it with a wrench right now, but you can get like a little tiny wrench or pliers and make sure it's super tight, because you don't want it to move after you get it straight. And then go ahead and check again and make sure that it's lined up straight, because it may move once you do that. So then you want to take your shorthand, your hour hand, and it's got this little thing on it. What you want to do is just put it over the top and press it gently until it stays in place. You don't want it loose. You want to press it gently. You don't want to press it too hard, because then it can break. And trust me, it will happen, because I already broke one. Then the second hand has like a different shaped hole, and you have to, I was like, what is wrong with this thing? But you have to kind of twist it around until you find how it will go on there. And the thing says line it up at 12 o'clock, but that may not necessarily be where you need to line it up. So don't worry about it being lined up at 12 o'clock. Then you put the little tiny nut over the top. And I like to put the battery in before I do all this. Okay, so if you did it right, you ought to be able to turn it. And I put these two little marks because the water meter has these little edges, but I want those to be lined up straight with 3 o'clock. If you were putting numbers, you know, you might want to make sure it lines up at 12 o'clock. And if you wanted to do numbers, like say it's at 3 o'clock and you want to do 4 o'clock, just go another round, and right there would be 4 o'clock. And you could put your number or a little mark or something. But that is all there is to it. And my clock is done. Here's what the back looks like. There's no cover for the battery. And you can use this little notch to set your time. But I'm just going to keep it at 3 o'clock. And if you listen, you can hear it ticking. So this is CajunDIYDiva. I hope you like this project. You can make a clock out of, you know, pretty much anything that you have, you know, any kind of square, or you could do a painting on a regular, probably not a canvas. It has to be something sturdy that you can put your clock kit through. So, but give this project a try. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to put pictures. I made a couple of these, and I made another one that's like a Houdat, a Saints themed clock. So I'll put pictures of all the different ones that I did. And thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.